Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Ethos Online. Again, this is a place where we can be, belong, and become the very best version of ourselves. So, wherever you're joining us, whether it's on the couch, living room, in the bathroom, that's weird, wherever you are, thank you so much for joining us. We are so thrilled you're here with us, discussing what it means to be more human. And again, that is the central teaching that we've been moving through here when we've been talking about the Sermon on the Mount. And so, even before we step in, let me remind you, if you go look at the descriptions below, you'll find different ways to support this thing that we do every single week. We also do podcasts, blogs, not just videos, living room sessions, all of those different things. So if you choose to support us, that's what this goes towards. It helps so much to have your support. Also, subscribe, hit the bell, you know the deal. Thank you for doing all of that and being a part of what we do. And so, again, we are talking about in this series, A New Way to Be Human. We are talking about the Sermon on the Mount. We're talking about these teachings where Jesus goes up onto the mountain and begins sharing with people from the scriptures, looking back and then talking about the present, what it means to be human, how to live in community, how to find shalom. Again, nothing missing, nothing broken. So as a Jewish person, you immediately connect Jesus and Moses. Again, Jesus was in the wilderness 40 days, right? Moses, 40 years. All these different connections you see. These writers want you to connect Jesus with the older, the past voices for Israel. They want you to connect Jesus to this new picture of what it means to be human, what it means to be Israel, right? That's the idea here. And so, again, the Sermon on the Mount is a deeper critique into the heart of the law. We understand it reclaims the beauty of living life in harmony. That's the idea. And as always, we remind you, this comes at a time for the Jewish people, 70 AD, temples destroyed, they've lost everything. They're asking the question, where is life? What do we do in the middle of pain, in the middle of brokenness? Is this the end of our story? What do we do? Our temple's destroyed. What happens to Judaism? And the message to a Jewish group, and again, this was a Jewish perspective. This is Jewish writing. This was not present-day Christianity. That wasn't the audience. This was a Jewish audience. And the message to a Jewish audience was this. Yes, the temple's destroyed. Yes, it seems like this is the end, but the reality is you carry Judaism here. You carry new life more abundantly here. And so the message for us today who have taken the Jewish writings and claimed them as our own, we say this: when life seems like it's broken, when it seems like there is no hope, the beautiful message of Jesus is there is life right around the corner. There's new life. Out of the ashes, new life begins. It's right there. And it happens here within you and me first. That's the beauty of the Jesus message. And that is the gospel in a nutshell. It is not that Jesus came down to satisfy an angry God. That is a Roman interpretation, not the one Jesus shared. The Jesus message is that life more abundantly happens here and all around us in community. That's the message. You are the living, walking, breathing temple everywhere you go. And so let's hop in. The teachings, these teachings there on the mountain, they start with happy are you. We went through all of those. And so today we look at Matthew 7. We step into chapter 7. And again, we've been going verse by verse because I think it's so jam-packed with so much beauty. So today, our title is Judgy, Judgerson. And so we're going to talk about judgment. We're going to talk about what that means, what it looks like, what it doesn't look like. And so here we go. Do not judge, lest ye be judged. For what judgment you judge, you shall be judged. A lot of judge. And with the same measure you use, it shall be measured to you. And why do you look at the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not notice the plank in your eye? Or how is that you say to your brother, let me remove the splinter out of your eye, and see a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite! First remove the plank from your eye, and then you shall see clearly to remove the splinter out of your brother's eye. Now, many people will read this, and they'll say, see, we're just not supposed to judge. We're not supposed to be judgy. right? If someone's doing something that we know is kind of destructive, bad, whatever, just ignore it. It's not your problem. It's theirs, right? You do you, I'll do me. Here's the problem with that. If we're going to be honest, if I am going down a really destructive path and I have friends who deeply care about me, I would hope that my friends who deeply care about me would stop and they would say, Tony, the path you're going down is going to hurt you really bad. Are you sure you want to go down that path? See, here's the misnomer of this. The idea that many people will share is, see, don't judge. The reality is, no. Jesus starts by saying, do not judge, but then look at what comes next in the blue. For with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged. Understand this from the get-go. Judging happens. And I'm not talking about like negative judgment of like, I'm better than you, I'm looking down on you, I've got the gavel. No. That's not what this concept of judge was. This concept of judge was more of a, I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to see the thing and I'm going to tell you, look, this thing is painful. It's bad. Let me tell you, let me remind you, let me share with you my concern. That's the idea here. It's not you sitting up here looking down, Judgy Judgerson. That is not what this is about. That's not the perspective at all Jesus is sharing. He's saying when you are walking in community with people, sometimes we need people to step in and say, hey, I'm really worried about you. And if I'm going to be honest, I've been able to measure some of my best friends by this. They've been willing to say the really, really difficult thing to me. And I know sometimes I didn't like it, right? How many of you love hearing that kind of thing? No, like it's painful. But when we hear it, we know we're loved because only a good friend is going to share their concern with you. And this is the perspective of what judgment meant. Yeah? All right, so follow along. Leviticus. Essentially what you have here is Jesus will oftentimes, or the writers will write, in Jesus. Either way, whatever perspective you look, Leviticus 19 is being quoted here. You shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. I hope you caught that. Again, the idea here is to reason, to talk it out with the people you do life with. Because again, we share a responsibility to help each other. When you are in community, it's your responsibility and it's my responsibility to find ways to walk with each other and bring fullness together. That's the deeper idea. And again, if you remember Israel, they're tribal people. Like they're living in tents, right? They're living in super close proximity. They know each other's business. Like they know what's going on. Right? These walls are very, very thin, right? They know what's going on. And so they find ways to walk with each other, hold each other accountable. That's what's going on here. We are responsible to help each other. If you see something that's potentially going to hurt someone, you go to them. You're responsible for them. Yeah, that's the beauty of the text. And so James says it well in the New Testament. He says, brothers, if anyone among you goes astray from the truth and someone turns his back, let him know that he who turns a sinner from straying of his way shall save a life from death and cover a great number of sins. Again, they took this very seriously. If you're able to move someone, again, sin is not some weird thing you get on you and, oh no, I've sinned. No. Sin is missing the mark. If you see someone missing the mark, like how beautiful is it to say, hey, bro, look, if you aim it this way, you sure get a better result. And I just keep seeing us aiming that way. And I feel like if we could go this way, that's the idea. But here's the thing. People like to sniff around, don't they? When I was part of a church, I remember there were sin sniffers in the church. I call them sin sniffers because in my mind, this is what it looks like. It looks like people smelling each other in weird ways. And if you take long enough to be sniffing people's booties, you're going to get a brown nose. Am I right? You're going to smell some really nasty stuff. And here's the thing. You have no right to be doing this. Sin sniffing is not what this verse is talking about either. It's not people who think they're better than everyone else going around and trying to dig up dirt on everybody. Like, that's not the point. You dig up enough dirt, you become pretty smelly yourself. That is not the point either. We are not asked, Jesus is not asking people to go out and like spy on your neighbors. Yeah, COVID, right? That's not the point. He's not asking people to go into the church and like figure out who's doing what to who and whatever. Not the point. You don't sniff this stuff out. This happens in friendships and people you do community with. You see what's going on because you're doing life with them. I have absolutely no respect for people who don't know me that just come up and make general assumptions. That's not the point either. That's hurtful. It's wrong. If you don't have a relationship with someone, don't go and sniff their booty. Makes sense? That's the idea here. We're not called to sin sniff. Not the point of what Jesus is talking about. We share, again, a responsibility to help each other. But, huge but. But here's the thing. Before we go and we share the issue, the concern with our friend that we are doing life with, before we do this, Jesus says something really just awesome. He says this, take time with self-reflection. Consider your own walk first. Before you go out of your way to say anything to someone else about truing the arrow, going that direction, take time, reflect on who you are. Because again, if you are going through the same thing, if you have the same issues, when your friend who knows you equally well hears you tell them that they should be doing something and you're not doing it, probably not going to be taken very seriously, are you? Yeah. No, you won't. It takes self-reflection, considering your own journey. And so he says, and why do you look at the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not notice the plank in your own eye? Or how is it that you say to your brother, let me remove the splinter out of your eye and see a plank in your own eye? Hypocrite. Again, this word hypocrite, it meant an actor, someone playing a role. Those are not friends, right? These people pretending to be friends, they're not your friend. They're pretending. They're pretending to care. How many times in your life have you met people pretending to care? The reality is they're just enjoying the moment where they get to judge. That's ugly. That's so ugly. It's what the first century people would call hypocritical. We don't need more hypocrites casting out judgment. We need close friends sharing their worries, their fears with us about the direction we may or may not be going. We need people walking with us who will take the responsibility to say, hey, I care about you, and this is what I see. Can we talk about it? That's what we need. It's beautiful. I remember a group of us, we were at a conference, and I was like 10 minutes late. And again, I was so frustrated, but I had gotten up late and I just booked it to the conference. I got there, I parked as quickly as I could, locked my door, booked it inside. 10 minutes, I missed a little bit, but I was able to pick up everything. We had lunch together. We were there for a while. It was such a good conference. And afterwards, as we're walking out, we look over and we see this red Camaro. This red Camaro parked in a handicap spot. And red Camaro parked in a handicap spot, not a big deal, right? Handicapped people can have red Camaros too. But here's what we noticed. We noticed a guy walking out of the conference, very healthy looking. He walks out of the conference. He opens his door. He pulls off his handicap thing, throws it to the side, gets in, and then takes off. Now, was he handicapped or not? I can't prove it, but it sure didn't seem like it. It seemed like he may be abusing this whole thing. And so we're looking at him and we're judging. We're like, what an a-hole, what a terrible person, this and that. And we're just casting all of this judgment on him. We're talking about how people abuse this all the time. We even see a couple older people walking up. It was so frustrating to see. We are talking about this and we're all walking to our cars. And here's where it hurts. Because as we're walking, I stop because my car's on the left. And what I notice is I parked accidentally in a handicap spot. And it was so embarrassing because my friends looked at me and I looked at them and I said, "Oh, I had no idea. I was just in a hurry. I didn't even notice. This is like 10 cars down. I thought the handicap spot. I didn't know." And they look at me and we all start laughing. Because here I'm going off about how terrible this guy was. How big of an idiot he was. How dare him take advantage of the handicap. And yet, if I had just taken a moment to find my own car, I would see I made an equally stupid mistake too. I took advantage and I didn't even know it. Can you imagine if I had seen that guy, went up to him and just started laying into him about how terrible of a person he was because he parked in a handicap spot. And then he saw me as I walked to my car, got my keys out and left another handicap spot. Yeah. Again, I think we have to be so careful with the judgments we put on people. And again, I think it's so important, like Jesus says, you don't just go out and do that. You take time of self-reflection before you even meet with a person who you're connected with. Again, this is all about walking in community, holding each other accountable, having a relationship with someone and then sharing concern. That's the deeper picture. That's the deeper story. That's the deeper advice Jesus gives of how to be human in the middle of conflict with one another. It's beautiful, and I would argue it's so applicable. And so if I were to put these words into condense them, this is what I think it would say today. When confronting someone else over an issue, do some self-reflection first. Pretty easy. Not really. So hard to actually live, isn't it? But if we could do this, man, I would argue our relationships would be so much closer to one another. And so how do we do it? How should we practice this? Because again, way easier said than done. So here's what I've noticed. When I look at the teachings of Jesus, he says a couple different things on this. And so I want to springboard there first, because often we'll use psychologists, therapists with all these different concepts of steps. But I want to start here with the words of Jesus, because he has a lot to say about this. And so look at this, Luke 17:3. Take heed to yourselves. If your brothers trespass against you, so again, this is like a personal thing, rebuke him, which means, again, go to him, bring up the issue. If he repents, forgive him. Notice that, forgive, forget, move on. And if he trespasses against you 7 times in a day, again, the word 7 here is full. It's the most you could do, right? It's just how could you do it? We use the word 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times in our culture today. 7 is wow, that's the fullness. And so 7 times in a day, turn again to him saying, I repent. You should forgive him. Yeah, if he says, I repent of this, forgive him. So from the get-go, understand we have to have patience with each other. You and your issues, you didn't change overnight. So why would your friends and your community, people in your community, learn to have patience with one another? You don't like what they posted on Facebook? Big deal, right? It's not going to change overnight because you said, hey, you should stop that. No, have the conversations. Understand maybe sometimes people are really triggered by stuff, and it's going to take a while for them to move through whatever it is triggered them. Whatever the issue is, we should have patience with one another first because we love each other. Another thing he says is this in Matthew 18:15-17. If your brother or sister sins against you, and again, this is so taken out of context in so many ways usually, but follow me here. If someone sins against you, or let's even say sins, go to them. Tell them what they did wrong. That's important, right? Don't just be mad at them. Don't just stop talking to them. Tell them what they did wrong. Keep it between the two of you. Notice that part. Keep it between the two of you. If they listen to you, you've won them back. But what if they won't listen to you? Then take 1 or 2 others with you. Scripture says every matter must be proved by the words of 2 or 3 witnesses. Again, this was in a time where people would take each other to court, and if you didn't have witnesses to tell that you hadn't gone through the right procedures, your case would fail miserably. So again, this is the idea of witnesses here. Then tell it to the church. And what if they refuse to listen even to the church? Then don't treat them as a brother or sister. Treat them as you would treat an ungodly person or a tax collector. So again, notice this about what Jesus is doing here. He's saying there are stages we can take in conflict. And again, let's move this to an applicable way today. Let's think about it this way. First point, if we follow these teachings, think about this. Consider the issue as if it were your own. So if there's an issue going on, maybe between you and someone else, or maybe just someone else and you see it going on, take a moment, think of the issue as if it was yours. Because if you stop for a second and you think about the issue this person is struggling with and you see it and it's leading them down this path, that's like, you know it's going to end really poorly for them. Put yourself in their shoes, because more than likely, you're probably doing it too. You probably parked in a handicapped spot too. Do you guys see it? More than likely, you've been there too. And more often than not, still are, right? Another thing, if you follow the teachings there of Jesus in chapter 18 of Matthew, confront as a concerned, loving friend, not a judge. Don't come off as the person who knows it all, because you don't, right? You don't. You think you do a lot, but you don't. Come to them as a friend. When confronting someone over something like that's really destructive to them, use really affirming language. Take time to let them know you love them. Don't go to a bunch of other people first and use triangulation, all that kind of destructive stuff. Go to them as a friend. Hey, I love you. I care about you. Here's the direction I see things going. I just want you to live the best life possible. Here's what I'm seeing. I care about you. Why would anyone hearing that be mad? If you come as a friend, as a support rather than a judge. No one likes a judge, especially coming from that perspective of Judgy Judgerson. Another one is this. Again, Jesus says, bring a mutual friend. If they don't want to hear it from you, and maybe there's reason, right? Maybe because you have the very same thing going on. I don't know. But bring a mutual friend in. Have that person also be there to talk about it, right? Say, look, there's a couple of us. We love you. We care about you. Our goal is to help you, not judge you. So again, during this time, bring a friend. Have a discussion. Take him out or her out for coffee together. Find a way to show them support. Let the whole purpose of the meeting be supporting the person, not judging them in a judgy, negative way. Lastly, be part of the solution. It's the easiest thing in the world to like dole out a bunch of advice and judgment and all of that. But if you could come at it from a perspective of, hey, now that we've talked, how can we support you? What can we do to help walk with you? We want to be here for you, and we know it can't be easy. Again, why would anyone ever be frustrated about that? Knowing they have friends that love and support them, that's where the life is. And so again, I find the words of Jesus here in Matthew 18 really, really helpful in the middle of conflict. And I hope you do too. So end of the day, if I could sum up the words of Jesus here, I would say when confronting someone over an issue, do some self-reflection first. Do some self-reflection first. So good. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, conflict is always something that happens in any relationship, any community. If we can traverse it gracefully, man, how much better off are we, our families, our friends, and our communities? As always, please consider giving to ethos-church.org/donate. Your support helps us put out the blog, Faith Undone. It helps us put out Ethos Living Room sessions. It helps with these videos, any kind of written blogs, all of it. Anything we do, your tax-deductible donations really do help. And if you'd like to join us in live conversations twice a month, please join us in our Ethos Living Room sessions. And again, that's on Zoom. Email me if you'd like to join, if you'd like a link sent out. That's tonywerfel@gmail.com. Shoot me a text, an email, and I will gladly send you the link. It's very easy to do. You can do it on your phone, your computer, wherever. We'd love to have you join us. And as always, hit that subscribe button, that little bell. It'll let you know every time a new video shows up. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have so enjoyed this. These teachings of Jesus, the Sermon on the Mount, it's just packed with so much wisdom, so much beauty, how to be a better and better human being, how to be fully human. Thank you so much for joining us. We love you, and we'll see you next week.